My wife cheated on me with her boss, stole $250, $0 from our joint account to buy a house for her affair, and now she's trying to legally evict me. I'm lost after discovering she lied about the mansion's ownership. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. Honestly, I thought I knew everything about my wife. We'd been together for over 10 years, married for 7. We had the perfect life, or so I thought. Nice house, good jobs, 2 kids, a dog. Everything seemed stable. But then out of nowhere, it all came crashing down in a way I could never have predicted. It started with small things, acting a little distant, snapping at me over minor stuff, canceling plans last minute. I brushed it off at first. Maybe she was stressed at work or tired from juggling the kids and her job as a marketing executive. She always had an excuse, and I wanted to believe her. But then I started noticing little inconsistencies. Phone calls she'd hide from me, texts she'd quickly delete when I entered the room. She'd leave her phone on the kitchen table and then suddenly grab it when I looked her way, acting nervous. One particular night, I came home earlier than usual from work. I didn't plan to, but my boss asked me to stay late for an urgent meeting. When I opened the door, I immediately sensed something was off. The house was eerily quiet and his car was in the driveway, but there was a strange man's voice coming from her office. I froze outside, listening. The voice was deeper than mine, more confident. I recognized it instantly. It was her boss, Mark. I'd seen him at work, a tall, charismatic guy with a reputation for being a bit of a player. I stood there, heart pounding, trying to process what I was hearing. Their voices were muffled, but I caught enough. Was laughing the way she only did when she was truly enjoying herself. Mark was teasing her about something, probably work-related, but the tone of their conversation suggested something else. Then I heard say, "You know I shouldn't be doing this, but I can't help it. It's just so intense." That's when I realized she was talking about sex. Her voice was breathless, and I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I backed away slowly, mind racing. How long had this been going on? Was I blind? Did I miss the signs? I felt a surge of anger, betrayal, and a deep sadness I hadn't known I was capable of. I wanted to storm in there, confront her, but I knew I needed to think first. I didn't want to do anything rash. Over the next few days, I kept my distance, watching her behavior closely. She started acting more possessive, more defensive. She'd snap at me over nothing, and her phone was glued to her hand. I found myself obsessively checking bank statements, and that's when I saw the first big shock. There had been a transfer $250 out of our joint account. I nearly fainted. That kind of money. It was supposed to be for our kids' college fund, our retirement, maybe a new car, not for some affair and a house for her lover. I dug deeper, and what I uncovered made my stomach churn. Had stolen that money, not just for herself, but to buy a house, an entire property under her own name. I found the deed hidden in a secret folder on her laptop, a mansion in a fancy neighborhood I'd never even heard of. She lied about everything. Said she was saving for a big project at work, that the money was an investment, but now I knew the truth. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. The betrayal cut deep. I felt like I'd been punched in the face every time I thought about it. She lied about the affair, lied about the money, lied about everything. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted with everything, was gone. Replaced by this stranger who was capable of stealing from her own family, cheating on me, and lying her way into a new life. I was furious. I wanted to confront her, but I also knew I had to be smart. I couldn't just blow up and say things I'd regret. I needed a plan. I wanted to make her pay, to show her that betrayal had consequences, but I also felt lost. My mind kept circling around the same questions. How long had she been lying? Did she ever really love me? Was I just a stepping stone for her to get what she wanted? I couldn't sleep that night. The house was silent except for my racing thoughts. I kept thinking about the mansion, the money, the lies. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry. It was like I'd been hit by a train. I never imagined that the woman I'd married and loved for so long would do this to me. I kept replaying her voice from that night, her words about how she deserved more, how she was tired of pretending. This is where I am now, sitting here trying to figure out what to do next. I know I can't just let her get away with it. She's stolen from us, lied to my face, and betrayed everything we built together. But I also know I have to be careful. She's manipulative, bitchy when cornered, and she's got her own plans. I just never thought I'd be in a position where I'd have to fight for my own family, my own life. If anyone out there has been through something similar, someone who's been betrayed like this, I could really use some advice. I feel like I'm drowning, and I don't know how to come out of this without losing everything. After I found out about the mansion and the stolen money, everything changed. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing, trying to connect all the dots. The house, the money, her affair, everything was a lie. I kept asking myself how she managed to pull it off so smoothly. Had always been good at hiding her true intentions, but now I saw the cracks in her facade. She was a master manipulator, and I was just too blind to see it. I decided I needed to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending everything was normal. That night I waited until she came home from work. When she walked in, she looked different, more confident, almost smug. I could tell she knew I had uncovered something, and that made my blood boil. I was furious, but I kept my composure. I started, my voice tight. "We need to talk." She looked at me, eyes narrowing. "What's there to talk about? I've been busy, that's all." "No," I said, taking a step closer. "You've been lying about the house, the money, about Mark." Her expression flickered for a moment, then she scoffed. "You're overreacting. It's none of your business. I was going to tell you eventually, but you're just being paranoid." "Paranoid," I repeated, voice rising. "You stole $250,000 from our joint account. That's not paranoia, that's betrayal, and I saw the deed. I know you bought that mansion behind my back." Her face turned red. "You don't understand. It was for us, for our future. I was going to tell you. You were going to lie and hide everything. While you were screwing your boss, buying a house with my money. How long has this been going on?" Hesitated, then snapped. "It was just sex, okay? It doesn't mean anything. Mark's just a fling. I didn't think you'd find out like this." Her words felt like a punch to the gut. I couldn't believe she was trying to minimize it, make it sound like no big deal. I felt the rage bubbling up. How dare she call it just sex? That bastard Mark, the way they'd been sneaking around, she was lying about everything. I told her I wanted her to leave. Not just the house, but my life. I was done. I couldn't even look at her without feeling sick. She screamed, said I was overreacting, that she was entitled to her happiness, that I was controlling. But I didn't care. I knew I had to do something about this, something drastic. The next few days were a blur. I started gathering evidence, screenshots of bank transfers, copies of the deed, her messages with Mark. I also hired a private investigator. I needed proof beyond what I'd already seen. I wanted to make sure I had everything in order before I made my move. I was planning my revenge, but I wanted to do it smartly. Meanwhile, was still in the house, acting like everything was normal. She'd walk around acting bitchy and dismissive, throwing her weight around. She'd say things like, "You're just jealous," or "You're insecure," whenever I confronted her. It made me furious. She was trying to gaslight me, make me doubt myself. But I knew the truth now. I saw through her lies. One day I found her on the phone with Mark. I overheard her saying, "He's too stupid to see what's happening. Once I get the house, I'll file for divorce and take everything. He's not prepared for what's coming." That was it. I couldn't stay silent anymore. I recorded the conversation. I knew she was planning to screw me over completely, and I had to act fast. That's when I made a decision. I was going to fight back. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything she stole. I filed for legal separation, started the process of getting a restraining order, and prepared to expose her lies to everyone, our friends, our family, the authorities if necessary. I wasn't going to let her ruin my life without a fight. Honestly, I feel like I'm in a nightmare I can't wake up from. How can someone I loved and trusted turn into this manipulative, greedy, lying bitch? I keep asking myself if I could have seen it sooner, if I missed the signs. But the truth is, I was, completely. Now I'm stuck between feeling betrayed and feeling angry. I want her to pay for what she's done. I want her to lose everything she's stolen, our money, the mansion, her freedom. But part of me also feels broken inside. I never thought I'd be in this position, questioning everything I believed about my marriage, my wife, myself. I know I need to stay strong for myself and my kids, but this betrayal has shattered me. I just hope I can come out of this with some dignity left, and maybe someday find a way to forgive myself for not seeing it sooner. After I gathered enough evidence, screenshots, recordings, the deed, I knew I couldn't delay any longer. My plan was clear: confront publicly, expose her lies, and put an end to her manipulations. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done, not just to me but to everything we built. I also wanted to protect myself legally, making sure I had everything documented before taking further steps. The day I decided to confront her, I made sure I was calm but firm. I told her I had something to say, something she wouldn't like. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, the one she always used when she thought she was in control. She kept dismissing me, saying I was overreacting, that I was making a big deal out of nothing. That only made me angrier. I pulled out my phone and played the recordings I'd made of her on the phone with Mark. Her face instantly changed. Her eyes widened, then turned cold. She stammered, trying to deny it, but I wasn't having it. I threw the evidence on the table, letting her see I had everything. "You lied to me about everything," I said coldly. "The affair, the money, the house. You stole from us. How could you do this? How could you betray me and our family like this?" She tried to act innocent, to spin some bullshit about how she was confused, how she deserved more, how she needed a fresh start. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I could see through her lies. I told her she needed to leave, that I was done with her manipulations, and that I was filing for divorce. She threw a tantrum, yelling, crying, calling me controlling and jealous. She said I was just insecure and that Mark was just a good time, nothing serious. But I knew better. I saw the text messages, how she was planning to take everything, including the mansion, and leave me with nothing. Over the next few days, I took action. I hired a lawyer, filed for legal separation, and started the process to get a court order to freeze her assets. I also contacted the authorities about the theft. The amount stolen was staggering, and I was prepared to press charges if needed. I wanted her held accountable for her actions. Meanwhile, was still in the house, acting bitchy and dismissive. She'd throw her weight around, trying to manipulate the situation. She told the kids I was trying to ruin everything, and claimed I was jealous of Mark. She even tried to turn them against me, saying I was just a bad husband, that I didn't love her anymore. It was disgusting, but I stayed calm. I knew I had to stay focused. One day, I caught her packing her bags. I asked what she was doing, and she snapped back, getting ready to leave, obviously. "You're not stopping me." I told her she wasn't going anywhere until everything was sorted legally. I also made sure she knew I had all the evidence and that I was serious about fighting for what's rightfully mine. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything: the betrayal, the lies, the stolen money. I felt numb and furious at the same time. How could she do this? How could she lie and cheat and steal from her own family? I was angry at myself for not seeing it sooner, angry at her for destroying what we had built. But beneath all that anger was a strange sense of clarity. I realized I couldn't fix what was broken, had made her choice, and I had to accept it. I decided I'd fight for my rights, for my dignity, and for my kids' future. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything, especially not the money she stole or the mansion she bought with it. As I sat there, I understood that this was a turning point. It hurt like hell, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. The truth was out now. I knew what I was up against, and I was determined to win, not just legally but emotionally, to reclaim my life from this nightmare. I know this is only the beginning, but I've made my choice. Manipulations won't get her anywhere. I'm done playing nice. From now on, I'll do whatever it takes to protect myself and my children. I just hope that someday I can look back at this and see it as a lesson, one that taught me how to stand up, even when everything feels like it's falling apart. The days that followed were a whirlwind of legal meetings, phone calls, and planning. I spent every free moment working with my lawyer, trying to get a clear picture of my options. The more I dug into the paperwork, the angrier I got. Had been sneaky about everything. She'd forged signatures, hidden assets, and lied about the house's ownership. I knew I had to be meticulous if I wanted to fight her properly. One thing I kept thinking about was how she told me she was saving for us, how she claimed the money was for a big investment. That was such a blatant lie. She had been planning this for months, years even. The mansion was just the tip of the iceberg. I found out she also opened a secret bank account under a fake name, funneling money there to avoid detection. That's how she managed to steal so much without me noticing. I also got the report from the pie I hired. Turns out, had been seeing Mark for at least 6 months. Maybe longer. Their affair was more than just a fling, it was a full-blown relationship. She'd been sneaking out, lying about business trips, and even meeting him at hotels. I felt sick knowing she'd been lying about everything, her job, her feelings, her fidelity. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs. How could I have been so blind? Meanwhile, his attitude was getting worse. She started to turn the kids against me, telling them I was trying to ruin everything, that I was jealous and controlling. That really hurt. My kids are everything to me, and I hated that she was manipulating them. I wanted to tell them the truth, but I knew I had to be careful. I didn't want to poison their minds, but I also didn't want her to keep twisting reality. One afternoon, I caught her trying to change the locks. She brought a locksmith, and I saw her handing over money. I immediately called the police. They came, and I explained the situation. They told her she couldn't just change the locks without my consent, especially since I had legal rights to access the house. She tried to argue, call me names, throw tantrums, but in the end they made her step back and let me in. That was a turning point. I realized I had to be prepared for her to try and cut me out completely. I started documenting everything, her threats, her manipulations, her attempts to hide assets. I made copies of all the documents, took photos of the house, and kept detailed records of every interaction. The legal process was slow, but I was determined. I filed for full custody of the kids, knowing influence and her manipulative tactics weren't healthy for them. I also filed for an immediate restraining order, which she fought tooth and nail. She claimed I was trying to control her, that she was the victim. But I had the evidence, her affair, the stolen money, the secret accounts, and I wasn't afraid to use it. The house was a now. Kept trying to manipulate the situation, telling the kids I was trying to take everything from her, that I was jealous of her happiness with Mark. She'd scream at me in front of them, call me names like pathetic, jealous, and controlling. But I stayed calm. I knew I had to stay composed if I wanted to win this. One thing that really pushed me over the edge was discovering that I'd already signed the deed transferring ownership of the mansion to herself, claiming she was doing it for our future. But I had proof she forged my signature on some documents. That meant she was trying to make sure I couldn't claim anything, even if I won the court case. I felt betrayed on every level. She was willing to lie, cheat, and steal just to get what she wanted. I kept asking myself why she'd do this, what was missing in her life that she had to destroy ours. But I knew I couldn't change her. All I could do was fight for what's rightfully mine, for my kids' future and for my dignity. The emotional toll was huge. I'd go from feeling furious to feeling helpless, from feeling confident to doubting myself. But I refused to give up. I knew that if I let her win, I'd lose everything, my family, my sanity, my future. So I stayed focused, kept pushing forward, and refused to be broken. Looking back, I realize I learned a lot about myself during this nightmare. I learned that betrayal cuts deep, but it also reveals who you really are. I learned that sometimes you have to fight dirty just to survive. And I learned that no matter how much someone tries to manipulate or lie, the truth eventually comes out. I just hope that one day I can rebuild what's left of my life, without her, without the lies, and finally find some peace. The legal battle dragged on, and every day felt like a new assault on my patience and sanity. His tactics grew more desperate. She started spreading rumors to our friends and family, claiming I was abusive, controlling, and that I was trying to ruin her life. She even tried to turn the kids against me, telling them that I was the bad guy and that Mark was her real happiness. It was sickening to see her stoop so low, but I knew I had to stay strong. One particularly brutal day, I got a call from my lawyer. The judge was scheduled to hear our case next week. Had filed a counterclaim, claiming I was harassing her and that I had no right to access the house. She also insisted she owned the mansion outright, despite the evidence I had provided proving otherwise. I knew this was her last-ditch effort to stall and manipulate her way out of losing everything. I sat in my car outside the courthouse, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and determination. I'd poured everything I had into this fight, every ounce of evidence, every sleepless night, every moment I had spent trying to protect my children from her lies. I realized that she wasn't just after the house or the money, she wanted to destroy me entirely. She wanted to erase the life we'd built together, but I wasn't going to let her. The hearing was intense. Showed up with her bitchy smirk trying to act the victim. She claimed I was trying to control her, that I was abusive, and that I was crazy for accusing her of stealing. I presented all the evidence, bank statements, the deed, the recordings, the Pies report. The judge listened carefully, asking questions, cross-examining her. I could see her squirming under the weight of her lies. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. She ordered to vacate the house immediately and froze her assets. The mansion was to be held in trust until the court could decide who truly owned it. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. For the first time in months, I felt like I was finally taking control of my life again. But the victory was bittersweet, was furious. She screamed and called me every name in the book as she was escorted out of the courtroom. She threatened to fight me to the death, claiming she'd ruin me financially and emotionally. I knew this wasn't over yet, but at least I had a court order backing me up now. That gave me some peace of mind. In the days that followed, I started to rebuild. I moved out of the house, took the kids to a safe place, and focused on healing. I also confronted some friends and family, told them the truth about lies and betrayal. I didn't want her to manipulate anyone else. I wanted them to see her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd betrayed her own family for greed and lust. The hardest part was watching the kids struggle with the fallout. They loved their mother, but they also saw her for what she was becoming. I promised them I'd do everything I could to protect them and give them a stable, loving environment. That's what kept me going. Every day, I reminded myself why I was fighting so hard to keep my family safe and to reclaim my dignity. Looking back, I realized that this experience has changed me forever. I'm more cautious now, more aware of how deception can hide behind a pretty smile. But I also learned that resilience matters, that even when everything seems lost, you can find a way to stand back up. I've learned that sometimes the only way to fight back is with the truth and a fierce determination not to let someone destroy you. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. I will never let anyone manipulate or betray me like that again. I've seen the depths of betrayal, and I've come out the other side stronger. And if there's one thing I want others to take away from this, it's that no matter how bad things get, you have to fight for yourself and your family. Because in the end, that's all you really have. Now that the dust has settled a bit, I find myself sitting here, reflecting on everything that's happened. Honestly, I don't recognize the person I was just a few months ago. The betrayal, the lies, the stolen money, it all hit so hard that I thought I might never recover. But somehow I did. I had to. For my kids, for myself, for the truth I knew I couldn't ignore anymore. Looking back, I realized that trusting someone blindly can be the biggest mistake of your life. Was supposed to be my partner, my confidant, the person I built a life with. Instead, she turned out to be a master manipulator, hiding her greed behind a pretty face and sweet words. She lied about the affair, lied about the money, lied about everything. And I was so caught up in our routine, I never saw the signs until it was almost too late. One thing I've learned is that you can't let betrayal define you. It's easy to fall into despair, to question everything, your judgment, your worth, your future. But I realized that the only way to move forward is to face the pain. Head on, to accept what's happened and to rebuild from the ashes. I had to forgive myself for not seeing it earlier and forgive her for what she did. Not because she deserved it, but because holding on to hatred only keeps you chained to the past. The court case was a turning point. When I saw her face twisted with rage and frustration as she was forced out of the house, I felt a strange sense of liberation. I finally had some control, some closure. The mansion is now in a trust and I have full custody of the kids. I've started therapy, not just to deal with the emotional fallout but to make sure I stay grounded. I want my children to see that even in the worst circumstances, you can still find strength. As for, I suspect she'll try to come back or fight even harder to get what she wants. But I've made it clear, I won't be manipulated anymore. I've learned that sometimes the best revenge is simply living your life honestly and with integrity. I want to be a good father, a good man, and someone who refuses to be broken by betrayal. This whole experience has taught me a lot about trust, resilience, and what really matters. It's made me realize that material possessions like that mansion or the stolen money are meaningless if your foundation is built on lies. What matters is honesty, loyalty, and love, things she threw away without a second thought. So here I am, stronger than I thought I could be. I've lost a lot, my wife, my sense of security, my peace of mind, but I've gained clarity. I know what I want now, a fresh start, free from her lies, and a future where I can finally trust again. I hope that anyone reading this who's going through something similar understands. No matter how dark it gets, there's always a way out. You just have to find the courage to fight for it.